frozen again.
Frozen again. That's a
Oh,
good look,
bro.
though.
Yo, so much has gone on in the last few weeks in all of our lives. Uh, I mean, I don't know who wants to start or what you're willing to talk about, but
I'll give you the little recap.
too deep in it, yeah.
I'm not gonna get too deep into it because a couple years from now or years from now, I don't want my son
Okay.
to be all fucking pissed off at me for
Yeah,
divulging too
we
much
haven't started yet,
information.
right?
Yeah, we
Yeah, we
did.
start.
Yeah, we're recording.
Oh, damn. I was gonna bring something else up. Okay, go
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
um,
We have secrets we have to keep from you every now and again.
ahead.
but I will say that we've been going through. So my son through the years has had little waves of I don't know if it's anxiety or just nervousness or kind of like keyed into things that kind of set him off and made him nervous. Like when he was younger, there was a time where like he was really afraid of throwing up after he threw up kind of violently, and so that set him off, and took however long it took for him to kind of get over that. There was a time period where he was kind of in his head about not being able to fall, being nervous about falling asleep. And then that in turn made it hard for him to fall asleep. Those kind of cycle things. You start worrying about something and then what you're worrying is why the worry is what makes it worse for you other than just kind of not worrying about it.
Right.
Uh, so I guess for the past month now, he's all of a sudden just something snapped, and he's definitely in kind of an anxious and worry state, way more heightened than I've ever seen it before. And without getting too into it, I mean it definitely, there was like a cross country meet that he was in, first time doing it. It was hot as shit. He went and he finished the meet, and he can be competitive, so he pushed himself. But afterwards, he felt like he was going to pass out, and the kid next to him who was running threw up across the finish line. And so I think that sparked some old shit on the throwing up, and then also the just he had never felt like that before, like ready to pass out after exercise. So that kind of shook him up. And then from there, I think that just kind of opened floodgates into other things like, dealing with middle school and friendship. I think, look, it's been a year since we moved, um, and we're in a different place. It's a different vibe. The kids out here are interested in different things than he was kind of used to, and so I think it's been a little bit of a struggle for him to try to feel connected and a connection, and and then going from elementary to middle school, there's a lot more decisions to make. There's just a whole lot of different dynamics going on, so it's been a thing, and it's been the the worry is one thing, and but it's worry to the point where it affects him physically, which is scary to see. And it's also affecting eating, which is really scary. And so it kind of felt like it was getting better after that we had our own little non-podcast fatherhood convos a couple
Yeah.
weeks
All right.
ago, and we let him make the decision to kill cross country and kind of get over that, and things seemed to be okay, and then he still had some worry and anxiety. It's just kind of morphing into different things, and like and so the school factor seems to be a big play in this, because on the weekends he's pretty chill, he's fine. And when he comes home at night, he's hungry and ready to eat. It's the morning and lunch that he's waking up in worry. He's not able to eat, not able to school. Some of the times where he's been at school, he's felt like he's ready to break down. He's needed to see the counselor, like a whole host of things going on. So it's interfering, with that as well. And he's got, it's such a, it's kind of a head fuck because it's, here's a kid who, he could get on a skateboard and do a 12-foot drop,
No problem.
even though he was scared to do it, but he did it. But then, he gets in his head about some of this other stuff and loses confidence, and it really, it's really affecting him. And we're trying the best we can. I guess kind of, I don't know, different approaches just seem to fail. It's really up to him. At the end of the day, it's frustrating because, and we're not inside his head. We're not him. We can't flip the switch. We can only encourage him, because it's really up to him to take the action. And I'm not saying it's easy, because, once, for all of us that have ever gotten inside our heads or talked ourselves out of doing shit or gotten nervous or whatever, it's hard. So, like I said, the eating is a big issue. He's lost some weight from it. And so the school called us, or has been in touch with us, and recommended that it seems like he probably needs some extra folks to talk to.
Yeah.
So we are going to, see what an intro to therapy looks like. And I've always been a little bit hesitant. I've talked to you guys about this. I've always been a little bit hesitant about it for kids, because my mind frame has been a little bit different on it. I'm not experienced in therapy at all. I have not done it. I know it's helpful for a lot of people. I always kind of thought, especially when it comes to kids, well, maybe it might be detrimental because could it act as a crutch, right? Could it be one of those things where they think that they need to talk to a therapist or to someone when anything bad happens, or they can't figure it out and make decisions on their own? I was actually talking to a friend, shout out to Jamal for his advice, because he's dealt with this with his kid. He said, instead of looking at it as a crutch, look at it as an opportunity to, give your kid some potential tools so that they can learn how to kind of learn some different techniques and learn some different things early on in the game. And that hopefully that helps them and gives them the tools should these things, appear later on in life, and they kind of already know how to deal with these things, how to use the tools. Yeah. So
make sure it's the right match, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Therapist,
for sure.
That's where I experienced I felt was detrimental to me, and also that he wants to do it, because my mom felt guilt of my parents divorcing and was forcing me into these things where I was not really into it.
Yeah, he seems like he wants people to talk to. I think the talking through it helps him. And so we're gonna at least try it and see what this person is like. I'm not advocating for like I don't want a pharmaceutical solution or any of that kind of stuff.
Right.
But, that's not what we're aiming for. It's more of, maybe there's someone else who has way more experience and can provide some tools that we just are totally overlooking. And I don't know, different approaches of just, I snapped this morning. I lost it this morning, unfortunately.
With him?
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Oh, like you got on his case?
Damn.
I've been getting on his case, but it was, like yelling, getting on his case. Like
snap out of it type shit?
Yeah. But also just like, because you get worried, and when you see him not eating or having trouble eating, you get that fear of like, don't do this to yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was just having such a hard time watching what was transpiring, and we've been going through this every morning, and so I lost my cool for sure. On the flip side, in turn, that pissed him off and actually made him eat more than he usually would because he was mad at me and
Like
kind of
to prove
saying,
you wrong,
yeah,
almost.
yeah.
Oh,
It was
wow.
kind
Okay.
of, yeah, it was odd. It was odd. Not, uh, but
So
he's also
are you
been like that in the past. Sometimes like we've had to just not literally shake the shit out of him, but do something to shake the shit out of him
to
to,
shock him a little bit?
yeah. But that's not really the approach I want to take,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it was an unintentional short term thing that happened. So anyway, I probably said more than I
I was
wanted
gonna
to say
say.
about this. And kind of just laid it all out, but
But
Is he fighting going to school in the morning?
sometimes, but he also knows that that's not gonna.
it's not an
That's
option.
also it's not an option, and it's not a way out of this as well.
Have you gotten the sense at all that is it potentially tied to a specific kid or a group of kids in the school?
Like bullying?
No,
Yeah.
we went down that route, and doesn't seem to be that. Again, who the hell knows, right? We're not there,
Yeah.
but no, I think it's more just like I don't know. He said something interesting. We were kind of talking about like, all right, well, we've just been trying like throwing out all kinds of different scenarios and seeing like what shakes him a little bit. Or I was like, well, fuck it. If this is going to be what it's like every day, then there's no use in going to the school, and we'll just go to a different school. Like if this is really what it's going to be about.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but mind you, if you go to this other school, you're going to be back in elementary school, right? Because the schools are a little different in how they operate. Or what the same grade, but this
Not
school
the
says it's
same
middle
level.
school, right? This
You threw the whole like you're about to go get left back, son. If you
yeah. So
and
so
he
first
wasn't
couple so first
Someone's
couple
gonna
times
level down.
yeah. So first couple times he was like, oh geez. And then said it again once we were just talking because it's like a nonstop conversation
yeah,
about this.
as it probably
Uh
should be.
I
That's right.
guess I'm really I get pretty exhausted about talking
Yeah.
about it because that's all he's talking about. And in a sense, I feel like Jesus, he needs to I gotta find a diversion for him to do pour his energy into something else for a little bit. But he said something that was interesting where it was he's like, yeah, I don't want to go back to elementary school. He goes, but the only good thing about elementary school is like everything was already planned out for you in terms of um where you're sitting, where you have to sit at lunch. Yet, there's not a whole lot of decisions to be made.
Mm.
Now you're in the mix of making a lot of you have the freedom to make your decisions. Who are you going to sit with at lunch? Where are you going to go? What are you going to, all this
That
kind of
creates
stuff
the awkwardness that sometimes happens.
of, yeah, 100% of just like, who do I really, if he's not really clicking with a whole lot of people, then where does he sit and who does he talk to? Or, what does he
It,
do? Read
it
that
it
whole
almost
thing.
it almost put the spotlight on him a little bit as like the odd man out if he's not clicking
Right. Or
properly.
sitting in someone where they would want someone else to sit and
Right.
all
And
that kind of stuff.
the funny thing is like he's like the kids there like him. He's likable, we've never really had an issue where kids are hating on him. I think he's being more selective or thinking that, he can't like it's almost like he's thinking if he's going to talk to someone or hang out with someone, it's got to be like his closest friend in the world. Where it's like, nah, you can move around and be cool with people. It doesn't mean like there's maybe some kids that you're going to play basketball with. There's some kids that you're going to play tag with, or whatever the interests are. It doesn't mean you have to like have the closest bond with them, but it's just go bounce around, hang out, see who's cool, who's not.
Is the you mentioned something that I almost took as like maybe the amount of independence or a need to make more decisions on his own is potentially one of those fear factors for him.
I think it probably is. And I think, but see, I think that it was the trigger from, cross country or whatever, or worrying about
Right.
passing out or throwing up or whatever. It is now like unlocked all these other things. Because he was, these were still conversations we're having. It's not like he was super comfortable, but it wasn't like stopping him in his tracks or anything prior to this. Like, he'd been in school for already a month or 2 months or something, and he was maneuvering and doing his thing. It wasn't until this one episode that it kind of, all of a sudden, now everything is an issue. You know what I mean? And everything is something to be worried about. So
it brings an example of something that happened to me recently. So, my daughter, she's 16. She's a junior in high school. She's now evaluating schools. Like, she's trying to get a feel for what college she likes, that type of, all that kind of decision making. And she's been visiting some schools, and my wife and I try to give her a reality check every so often, because her habits are not going to be conducive to her being successful when she goes from high school to college.
Right.
Or she still might academically be strong because she's an honor student. She has been. That's what she's used to. So she's very fearful. She excels academically based on fear. And I think anything you do with fear as the motivator is like, it can. I don't necessarily think it's always a healthy thing, but for instance, like, she'll go to sleep mad late. She'll wait forever to do her homework. She'll get it done, but she'll go to sleep at like 1, 2 in the morning to be up at 5:45. Right. It's not sustainable. So we were talking about, like, yo, when you go to college and you keep doing that, here's how that potentially could pan out for you. And take it from people that have been to college and have seen this happen, right? And then we start throwing other things that she has to think about and decisions that she's going to have to make on her own when she's there. Because once you go to college, like, the professors aren't sending us the grades. Like, you got to manage all that. You got to make sure you're at the class, whatever. And she commented to us like scared out of her mind. Like, I don't want to be an adult.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to have to make these decisions. And
yeah. It's a lot.
It's a lot. And she's 16. So I can imagine if your son is feeling that at 10,
11.
I'm sorry, 11, like, it sounds like some of that has something to do with what he's going through.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Ugh.
I mean, don't you guys remember being, like, going to junior high for the first time and having to do, I mean, maybe because everybody's probably had a different, in different places, but I remember going to junior high for the first time and it being the locker and walking around and getting to the classes and not knowing the lay of the land of the school. And you just felt like you were just thrown into this thing and expected to figure it out with kids that seemed way older at a point,
Yeah.
And it's mad scary, man. It's scary. It's like they don't prepare you for that.
The transition for me that I can think of that was most like impactful was because my school went from kindergarten through 8th grade. So I didn't really have like a junior high, division there. But when I went to high school, I went to an all boys Catholic high school in the Bronx. And so just think, a school full of dudes who are assholes to each other from jump.
Right.
You go into this new pond as the small fish. And now you got, like you said, like, you got to figure out what classes to be at. All this disciplinary shit that you got to figure out, and accountability. Nobody's really trying to help you. Everybody's actually trying to pick on you. It's you, the fresh meat, right? So it's like, all right, let's make this motherfucker's life hell. And so you have those pressures, and it was traumatic. The only saving grace, I guess, in my experience was there was a class of us that were going through a lot of the same shit as freshmen. So we kind of started to help each other as we navigated, but even still among us, we were like trying to push each other into the wrong direction to like get a laugh.
Yeah.
So, but
I mean, the good news about the school is at now. I mean, the middle school, they kind of keep it sectioned so that there's like the 5th and 6th graders are on one side and still not having a ton of interaction with each other. The 5th graders are still more kind of monitored and not totally let loose like the 6th graders, and then you have the 7th and 8th graders on the other side.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know, dude. I'm like,
but I mean, look, the good thing is you guys are working through it, right? Knowing that there's that there is a problem, I think is a huge advantage here. because a lot of kids suffer in silence, and that is what causes a lot of the shit that you see that's like horrendous, right?
Yeah,
So
nah, that's a good point. I mean, I'm just not used to seeing it, like, to see someone who's always had so much kind of like positive energy and active and ready to get up, to see him like just even his posture and hand on the face, not wanting to get up, and just man, it's heartbreaking
yeah, yeah,
to
that's not
to
easy.
to see that. Now the other thing is, and I'm sure, again, sorry, my son, should you ever hear this, but not trying to put you on blast, but he's starting to go through puberty as well. So I'm pretty sure that this
Oh,
is
that's a big part of it. Then
this has a lot to do with it as well.
it could be a lot of hormonal stuff going
Yeah,
on.
definitely.
Actually, you raised a very interesting point because
And it's early puberty,
Yeah,
yeah,
right?
because 11 years old.
Yeah. So, and
I'm
I did read that kind of pre-puberty, early puberty does cause extra nervousness and anxiety issues and things like that. So,
I'm
I
hearing
think
that
that's
from some
probably your
parents.
culprit.
I'm hearing that from some fifth grade parents that their kids are acting very differently, and there is like a not they don't say depression, but more leaning toward like an awkward sense of
yeah,
being.
yeah.
All right, well,
I,
glad we were
I, I
helped.
didn't mean to hijack the whole episode, but
No,
this is
no.
what's been happening.
This is important.
That's important. I'm sure there's a lot of folks listening that can empathize with that. And I mean, look, the truth is, like, selfishly, like, why part of the reason why we do what we do here is to lean on each other, right? And
Right.
so this is opportune time. Even though we had our private moments that we spoke about this, like it's also therapeutic to be able to do it kind of in this forum. So thanks for sharing. And yeah, to your son, when you do listen to this, like, know that the intention is not to make you seem like the oddball here. Like, it's really more about just trying to help your dad kind of process what's going on. Cause at the end of the day, like, you're going through some stuff and so are your parents. So we're trying to ease it all kind of in the conversation.
And
Yeah.
if you ever does hear this, thank you for being our fourth listener.
Right. And if there are other listeners out there who have dealt with this or similar things, it'd be nice to hear how other folks dealt with this or how it played out as well. So
yeah, hit us up at Fatherhoods Pod. That's an S, not a Z, folks. Fatherhoods Pod on IG, and let us know the DMs.
yeah, that's what's popping to this go around.
So I don't know if it's related. Now that we were just talking about your situation, Kay, my son has had a little bit of a spat. It manifested most recently as him coming home from school and saying that one of the teachers in the school, she's a therapist actually in the school. He said the word aggressive is probably overboard,
Okay.
but she firmly grabbed his head and then turned it to her and told him stop making poor decisions.
Yeesh.
And so he didn't obviously like to be touched that way.
Yeah.
He came home and told me, which I'm grateful for, because very easily the way my son tends to lie a lot. And so it's very easy for me to call him on bullshit, and that trigger him not to want to tell me anything, because what comes out of his mouth, he may feel like I'm going to consider bullshit.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that he was able to tell me. Now, it's like the second incident in 1 week. This one, the teacher being kind of the one at fault for what he explained. And then prior, like a few days before, he got roped into this little group of kids that kind of surrounded another kid, and somebody yelled pants. And I didn't know what that meant. He said he didn't know what that meant, but somebody went and pulled the kid's pants down. Not all the way, but enough where it's uncomfortable, right? And so my son was a part of that crew. So the teachers
didn't you say this was his ex friend?
No. They're still
They're
friends.
still friends.
They're
Okay.
still friends. Yeah. And so it was like something he claims he didn't know about. He was really like bothered about this. One, because he got in trouble. And when he got in trouble, they sent a notice home.
Mm-hmm.
And that notice we had to read, sign. So obviously, so we know what happened.
Right.
But he was very, I believe that he really didn't know what pants meant. It felt like the way he described it, they were kind of almost like playing tag, right? Like somebody darted out and then everybody chased them and then she was going to like corner him and like play around or whatever.
Right.
And so that happened. And when he came home, he knew he had to talk to me because he had to notice, like, there's no way around it. And the first thing out of his mouth was, Dad, something happened in school and I need you to listen to me before you react. And I was like, shit. Okay.
Right.
I can be a fucking monster if that's how you say it, right? So I said, as soon as he said, Dad, I need to talk to you, I felt myself get like tense.
Mm.
And then as soon as I heard him and I digested what he said, I said, all right, cool. Let me sit down and just be quiet. Still like mean mugging, right? I'm still like angry already without hearing anything. He walks me through what I just explained to you guys. And I'm keeping it cool and I'm asking him questions. I'm like, yo, but that's your boy. Like, he was like, oh, I really didn't know. I thought we were just goofing around, whatever. And I was like, all right, cool. I can understand that. And then this happens with the teacher. And I know that her intention, the way he described it, was basically her telling him like, yo, you're better than that. Like, be the person that you know you are. Don't follow a crowd of people that are up to no good. But I didn't like her touching his head. Neither did he. So I reached out. I reached out to the principal. I reached out to his homeroom teacher and whoever else was around.
And that teacher.
So I didn't have her information, but
okay. Got
I
it.
referenced her to the principal and I was like, look, I'd love to have a conversation with her. Here's what my son told me. I don't appreciate, this kind of behavior. And we've had an amazing experience in that school with my eldest graduating from there and all this stuff. And my youngest also being a part of the school. So I'm like, I really just want to understand, but I need you guys to understand from my perspective, like, yo, putting your hands on my kids is not okay. So the lady calls me, I speak to her, super nice lady. She's historically a social worker, and she explained to me kind of what actions she took. She took accountability for putting her hands on him, and basically corroborated to a large degree what my son said.
Okay,
which I appreciate because of my relationship with my son, I know him to kind of embellish a whole lot.
Right.
So this time, the accuracy was so high that I was like, okay, that's great. Check. Now I told her, I was like, look, I'm seeking to understand. I think I understand where your intentions were, but I'd love to hear kind of how this unfolded. And she explained and yada, yada. And it was cool. Like, I appreciated that she was trying to lead him down the path that she knows he's capable of going versus this other one. But then she kind of told me a little bit about she kind of snitched on him a little bit about other things that have happened that she or the teachers didn't feel like were enough to like raise to the parents, but kind of like a pattern. And what she explained to me was, being in 5th grade in that school, they're the seniors.
Right.
So those kids get out of pocket, particularly the boys. It's kind of like a rite of passage for them leaving the grade. And so, and plus the hormonal shit that's going on in these kids, like, that's a perfect combination of them to try to act out and try to get away with shit. So I'm level setting here. I'm like, that all seems very logical. And I appreciate that you guys are like blowing a whistle every single time some little shit happens, because you got to kind of let things, figure themselves out. Right. And so we spoke and I was like, look, I would appreciate, she offered, I'm happy to go apologize to him and let him know what my intentions were. But I want you to know as a father, like, here's where I'm coming from. And I won't do that anymore. I can understand why you're upset about that. And it was cool, very amicable. It was the ideal ending to that conversation. Then I told her, look, I would really still like to meet in person. And I'd like my son to be there, because I both want to rehash what we just talked about in front of him. But so all the expectations are clear, but I also want to almost like have like a united front along with you, so that he knows that when you folks hold him justly accountable, that we're going to support that as well. And so that's happening tomorrow. But it was a really, like, I'm sure a lot of parents that are listening to this, the first reaction for if you hear your kid say some shit like that, it's like, I'm gonna go kill somebody.
Right.
Or like a negative, reaction. Right. And I let my mind go there for a split second. And then I said, nah, because I was a kid. I know I pushed boundaries a whole hell of a lot. And so I'm sure to some extent my son has some blame here. It doesn't excuse touching him, but I can understand, like, back a little bit before my time, the nuns that used to run the Catholic schools.
Bro, we used to get our ass whooped in school. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yo, there was
Moving
rulers
of
all
the-
over your hands. Like,
They
pop.
grab the ears, the
Yeah.
paddle,
Yeah.
kindergarten.
Again,
my teacher used to hit us in the hand with a big ass hand. Bam.
and those people would be in jail today, right? So, like, again, not excusing it, but I could understand it. I could rationalize it. So now it's like an interesting dynamic in my house, because now I'm like, yo, you gotta. I told him, like, one of the things that the teacher said was, like, he's cursing on the bus, right?
Yeah, cursing seems to be big right now.
I curse a lot in the house, not at my kids, but around my kids. My wife every so often does as well. I look at my kids. I told him, I was like, look, it's not a far-fetched conclusion for me to think that you're cursing, because I'm teaching it to you. I acknowledge that. But at the same time, there's a time and a place.
Right.
And I get the whole, like, yo, you saying slick shit on the bus makes you look a particular way to a certain group of people.
Right.
I can understand it.
Yeah.
But I was like, know when to use that. I'm not, so long as you're not doing it so much around us, I think we're okay. I
told my son, just don't get caught. Like, do what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
Be smart.
Exactly.
Don't get caught.
So anyhow, like, there's almost like this new level of understanding and maturity happening as a result of these few incidents.
Seems actually more positive.
Yeah, it has been. It has been. And that's kind of what the moral of the story is here. It's like, I could have let this incident with the teacher mount to be something completely off the wall. Also, the one right before that, where he was kind of roped in with this other crew. I chose the high road and to try to put myself in his shoes, right? Versus, like, force a doctrine that I think is the right one because I'm the parent, he's the child, and, like, I want us to be looked at a particular way. It's like, I was like, fuck all that. Like, the truth of the matter is, you're gonna go through life and make choices that may not always be the right choice, but it's not necessarily going to define you unless you continue to be that person all the way through. So you need that room to navigate and be able to experiment and, like, learn. And so I'm not trying to cripple that opportunity. I'm trying to support it, but also expand the guardrails here so that he knows, like, yo, all right, I'm getting too far off course here. Let me go veer back.
It sounds like the natural progression of parenting. So it's like you reach the next level of, like, the mature, like he's maturing, the parent child relationship is maturing, different responsibilities on him, and the trust is different. Seems like it's a natural progression.
Yeah, I didn't think about it like that, but that's exactly what it feels like. It's like we reached a new level of our relationship.
Yeah,
these kids, man. How you holding up, E?
My shit next episode, because
my kids is too heavy.
My daughter's wilding out. My kids are.
Oh man. Damn. Oh, have you guys been keeping up with the news?
Yeah,
Israeli
I don't
conflict.
That seems like a
I
very.
don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, it's a very, very.
Just sad all the way around.
Yeah. It's yeah.
It's horrible. I have a few clients that are in Israel, and fortunately they're safe. But at any moment anything can change, and we've communicated, and they're super empathetic on both sides, which I think is exactly how I feel. Right? Terrorism in no way, shape, or form is excusable, but I look at it like, yo, just the human impact, right? Forget all the politics and all the history and all the shit. It's just like,
yeah. Civilians caught in the crossfire of any side is just never
it's
cool.
terrible.
Yeah.
And I, you know, my kids know that I have clients in Israel, and they, you know, they see kind of what's happening, and they're privy to some of the information, and they're kind of just like, you know, we're not there, so we don't necessarily feel the full impact. Neither do they. But me explaining to them some of the terror that these people are facing, like they're kind of like, it's humbling, right? And I'm noticing that about them, and just understanding kind of the world a little bit more different. So yeah. Anyway, all that to say, like, yo, I'm keeping all those folks in my thoughts and prayers, because it's really, really tough scenario.
Just seeing children, being affected as a parent is tough.
It's heartbreaking.
But,
all right, boys. On that somber
This
note,
has been sobering episode, but no, it's good. Good to talk about all this shit.
So if you like what you've heard to this point, whether it be this episode or any others in the past, we humbly ask that you share it. Fatherhoods.com/episodes. You can find your favorite and just send a link to whoever it is that you think would benefit from it. We also would appreciate any follows on Instagram, at fatherhoodspod. And we'd love to hear from y'all. So if you do have any questions, comments, thoughts, we get a lot of information, a lot of interesting takes from folks that help inform kind of what direction we go with the pod. So please share. Instagram is the perfect place. So at fatherhoodspod. And we'll see you guys next week.
Hasta luego.
Yeah.
Pizza.